Well, we now have a wonderful moment where I get to invite a friend of mine and a very interesting man up to join us. Brent's not sharing with us this morning. We actually are having Matt from the Pong come and share with us. So Matt, I invite you to come up and join me. I'll just grab you a microphone, mate. Because he is very interesting. And so I thought I'd give you a bit of an opportunity to share a bit about yourself, Matt, so people can know who you are before you try and, pilfer our pockets. And so, yeah, not my best. So Matt, I've heard that if anybody here doesn't have a ride home, you'd be a good person to talk to about that. Is that correct?
Under normal circumstances, yes, but not today. But no, I think you're alluding to the fact that, excuse me, that I drive Uber.
Yes.
Yeah, and I told you last night that I'm the world's #1 Uber driver.
Based on what, Matt? Like, who's handing out those awards?
I am.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Unbiased. Excellent.
And as we know, Sean, not all ministry happens within 4 walls of a church building.
Okay. Yeah.
So I have a million stories.
Speaking of ministry, you also, on occasion, send me random photos of my extended family members with you in those photos. What's going on there, Matt? Why are you doing this to me?
I'm part of Yarra Valley Vineyard Christian Fellowship, where up to a little while ago I was employed there. I was doing working in community engagement, which was awesome. And I know very well Peter and Robin Salisbury, and we were talking Pong one day, and I was talking about Rowville, and they said, we know Sean Benton, and we know the Bentons at Rowville. And I'm like, I know him too. And so we're like, we've got to get a picture and send it to him. And I sent Sean this picture, and he's like, what are you doing with my family?
And I was mostly surprised that he'd figured out that they were my family. So well done on that. And I also have heard some rumours that there's a lot of rumours about this guy. He don't listen to them. Most of them are lies. That you are in the business of stealing ideas, Matthew. In particular, that you like to steal some of our ideas. What's going on there? Why are you stealing?
Well, first of all, when anybody calls me Matthew, I feel like I'm in great trouble from my mother, and she's been departed 13 years, so thanks, Sean. Your last Pong event last year, your Pink Pongathon, I was privileged enough to be able to come and partake in that. And I looked at it and I thought, what a fabulous idea. I'm going to pinch that. So I did, because I can. And at Yarra Valley Vineyard, our Pong event, which was held in March of this year, we did a Pink Pongathon. So thank you for all your brilliant ideas and all your pink engagement, because I stole everything.
And so most of us, I think, are aware of what the Pong is. But in case there's anybody here, Matt, who hasn't been around Rowville for long enough to know what it is, or just needs a refresher, can you give us a bit of an idea of what is this Ping Pongathon thing? Yeah. And something we don't often get to hear from you, Matt. How did you become involved in it? How did you get here?
There's a couple of questions there. So first one first. Ping Pongathon, which we call the Pong because Ping Pongathon is that long to say, it's too long. We are a fundraising, educational and advocacy movement that works against slavery and human trafficking by encouraging communities right around Australia to hold table tennis marathons ranging from 3 to 24 hours, as you guys do here. It's quirky, it's nuts, it shouldn't possibly work. But nearly $5 million later, it does work. What do we do with that money? Well, we have 8 charity partners who are based around Southeast Asia, India, and right here in Melbourne. And the money that is fundraised each year, we then distribute to our partners who are on the ground doing the work of education and prevention, rescue and aftercare, and bringing systemic meaningful legal change. So massively impactful. How did I get involved? It was an accident. Well, it seemed like an accident, but I wonder if God had some design in it. I had previously enjoyed a 20-year career in the homelessness sector, and I thought that was my forever job until I was working no more, and apparently not, no. And once I finished that role, took a few months off to wonder what I was going to do next, ask God, smell the roses, and suddenly Ping Pongathon came looking for me, which was very gratifying, and the rest is history, and I've been there for 8 years now.
Amazing. And I had the pleasure of sharing a meal with you last night, and part of what was shared at that meal last night was this idea of what you guys are doing has impact, that you have no fear that at the end of your life that you'd reflect back and think, what did I do with it? Because you're working in something that is so important to you. And so I thought I'd just ask, what does that idea of legacy mean to you, Matt?
Yeah, I'm quite emotional right now, Sean, so thank you for asking that question. Yeah, legacy is really important. I wonder if other people find this, that the slightly older that you become, you think more and more about what you leave behind, what your legacy is. And so for my colleague David, who a lot of you have met, and me, when we think about what we're doing now, we know we're truly blessed. We know that we're not going to lie on our deathbeds thinking, I wish we'd done something meaningful. We are doing something meaningful. But can I just play on that idea of legacy a little bit? Like, you guys have ponged here since 2018. You've ponged every year since then. You've ponged through the 2 COVID years, which we can't tell you how much we appreciated that at a time where we weren't, like a lot of charities, we weren't sure that we were going to come out of COVID alive, and we did. And it was the likes of you and other Victorian churches who found it difficult to pong, but did pong through that time, that really kept us going. There's legacy there to start with. But in the years that you've ponged, you've raised over $125,000. I know, you should give yourself a round of applause, really. Last year, you raised over $22,000, which was your best year in terms of the financial metric. And in terms of all the communities around the nation who pong, your $125,000 places you 8th all time. Now, a lot of those other churches and schools who have got more dollars than you have ponged right from the beginning, from 2012, 2013. So you guys just punch above your weight. But the financial metrics are one thing, but it's the legacy. There are, because of your heart and kindness and efforts, there are literally hundreds of people around Southeast Asia and India now whose lives are irrevocably better, changed, because of what you've done. And when these lives are changed, their legacy then goes on. So please, 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 if you do happen to pong this year, and I don't take it for granted that you will, but I hope that you do, please never think that, Shawnee tells us that we raised $25,000 or whatever, but we're not really sure where that money goes. No, please be sure. That money changes lives forever. And in a minute or two, we're going to get Christy up, who's going to explain a little bit more about that.
Actually, I'd love to, before I dig myself into any more holes while I'm up here, I'd love to let the stars of the show come up. And so who is Christy? And maybe we'll get her to come up and join you and go from there.
So I talked about the fact that the Pong has partners who we support financially. So we have 8 charity partners. Offspring, who are domiciled in Geelong but operate in Kolkata in India, are one of our partners who we have been supporting. This will be year 3 that we've supported Offspring, and it is my pleasure to welcome Christy Davidson, the founder and CEO of Offspring, to the stage. And I'm going to interview Christy.
Close enough, yeah.
So I guess the first thing for me to say is it's always a privilege to be invited back to Roeville Baptist Church. I spend a lot of my Sundays throughout the year talking in churches right around the country, and there's just 2 or 3 churches that I walk into and start smiling and know that I'm welcome, know that I'm at home, and this is most definitely one of those communities. And Sean, if you're thinking, I bet Matt says that everywhere he goes, I actually don't. So I don't know how many times I've stood up here across the years and spoken, But thank you very much for welcoming me and with Christy this morning. And thank you for trusting me, Brent, to do a good job up here this morning. Thank you. Christy.
Hi, Matt. Hello, everyone.
Okay, let's start with the 60 to 90 second elevator pitch as to what Offspring is all about, please.
So our vision at Offspring is to live in a world free from sex trafficking, where every life is healed and restored. That vision does overwhelm me because I know the extent of human trafficking, of modern slavery globally. But we have vocational training centres in Kolkata, India. One is an aftercare centre, so working with girls who have been rescued from sex trafficking, and one is a prevention centre, so we work in the red light area, one of the biggest red light area in Kolkata, in India, and we're in there working with girls who are at risk of being trafficked. And we also have a midway home for those girls, some of the girls who have nowhere else to go. They might have come out of the system, the child system, so they turn 18. They don't have a home. They don't have a safe home to go to, or they've been trafficked across the country or the border, and so we've got a transition home for those girls.
Amazing. So let's just really delve into. Let's get a definition of trafficking. Just.
To sit?
I feel good.
No, it's all right. Nah, that's all right.
Worried now.
No, you're all right. I'll let you know if you're falling. Or they'll probably let you know if you're falling.
These worried faces. Trafficking, it's a word that we hear a lot, that we use a lot, but before we really get into the meat of this talk, let's really get an understanding as to what trafficking is, please.
Yeah, so I mentioned sex trafficking, and that's one form of human trafficking. And then human trafficking comes under the umbrella of modern-day slavery. And modern-day slavery is exactly as it is. It's slavery that is happening today. It doesn't just exist, way back when. It's happening today. And trafficking is essentially where one person is taken from one place to another. It might be from one state to another state. It might be across borders. But they are often taken without their own, without will, like they're kidnapped, stolen, manipulated, coerced, and then ending up in slave-like conditions.
Thank you. Now, before we get into how did you create Offspring, I'd like just for people to get to know Christy a little bit. Now, I'd like you to tell the story of getting married to Pete over there.
Pongman Pete.
Pongman Pete, yeah. In a swimming pool.
That's correct. Yeah, well, we got married. We actually connected through the Pong, so thank you. And
you're welcome.
And then we were having wedding plans organised. We had invited 200 people to our wedding. We had half a marquee set up in my parents' backyard and organised lots. And then Pete was actually living in Rowville. As we were driving here, I was like, oh, this reminds me of my dating years. Like, he just lived around the corner. I was in Torquay, in Geelong, and we were listening to ScoMo at 9:30 at night mention that as of tomorrow night, you can only have 5 people at your wedding. And so Pete called me and I'm like, well, what do we do? And he's like, should we get married tomorrow? And I'm like, okay, let's do it. But we had to sign the documents before midnight that night to legally get married the next day. And so Pete's driving down the highway, possibly, maybe it speeds faster than he should have. I'm coming in from Torquay. We meet in Ocean Grove. We sign the documents. And then the next day was just like, I didn't have a wedding dress. I didn't have a ring. Didn't have vows. I was Googling vows. ChatGPT would have been handy then. And it was just kind of all came together where in the end, everything was kind of not going the way we planned. And I just said to Pete, should we just get married in the pool? And he's like, yeah, that's a great idea. So we told the pastor, bring your wetsuit, bring your surfboard and bring a tie. And so we got married in my parents' pool.
Like you do. So good. Christy, okay, that's fabulous. Tell me 3 very short, very quick things about you.
Well, you may have noticed or seen that I have 3-year-old twin identical daughters over there. I've done the largest bungee jump in the world off a bridge. I felt myself as I was going, my hands were reversing like I thought I could get myself back up. Couldn't. And I taught in an Aboriginal community for a term, and as part of my initiation we went hunting, and they shot a kangaroo and they just, cook it right there and then, and my initiation was to drink the kangaroo blood from the carcass. So what can you do? I just had to do it. They might not have let me stay, I don't know.
You made a good decision.
Yeah,
I'm sure,
I might have a few parasites still living in here, but I'm good.
All right, so let's really get into it. So let's talk about your journey into Christian faith and believing in Jesus. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, I've grown up in a Christian home, so I suppose I've always known about God, went to Sunday school. But for me, where it really sort of, I suppose, came home was when I don't know, does anyone go camping or been camping? Yeah. We used to go camping every year at Bermagui, and we'd take a caravan along, and for some reason this caravan that we had at that time had a fault in it. And my dad had sort of told me and my brother, may have told my sister, but we don't know how the story really goes. Anyway, we were just around the caravan one day. Sky and I had a bit of a tiff, as siblings do. She'd gone inside the caravan and she was playing with this light switch. Don't know why, but she was. I was like, get my wetsuit, go for a swim. I went into the annex, couldn't find it there, so I went to go into the caravan. I put my foot on the metal plate and my hand on the metal frame, and I was being electrocuted with 340 volts running through my body. I couldn't let go, but then all of a sudden it threw me off, and I actually fully flew around the corner, outside the annex door. And landed on the ground, and the ambulance came and an electrician came to assess the caravan, and he said, honestly, I don't know how your daughter survived, to my parents. And I really wrestled with that. It shook me.
Well, it was an electrifying experience.
Yes. And yeah, for 2 years, I just was like, why, God? Like, why am I alive? Why am I still here when I technically shouldn't be? And it was when I was 14 that I was like, I want to make a decision and just declare to God that I will serve Him, honour Him for the rest of my life. And got baptised, and yeah, and I think for me it was like every day I wake up, I have a purpose. I'm here today because I have a purpose, and just go with that every day.
Okay. So that sounds quite foundational to then what you decided to do with your life. I know that you were teaching in Geelong at one stage, but talk us through the genesis of the Offspring story. What happened there?
Yeah, well, I think making that declaration at 14, it was like I didn't know what was to come. But at 19, I went to India for the first time, and I had a really great experience. I loved the country, loved just the colours and the vibrancy and the craziness of it. I also got really sick, so that part I didn't like. I went to Africa for a few times while I was studying, teaching with different aid organisations. And then I went back to India, really passionate about educating people and leading people on experience where we can come home and go, what now? What does that look like for me? Like, we can't all move overseas and pick up our lives and go. And so I was leading a group in India, and we met with an organisation that does rescues, that rescues girls from sex trafficking. And we're sitting around this table, and I remember it like it was yesterday. They were talking about how they go in undercover, they meet with underage girls, they talk to them, they want to help them, but then they've got to go with the police, who are often corrupt. And I just remember thinking, how can someone buy and sell another human life? Like, I can't actually compute that. I don't get that. And my little Australian bubble was probably burst at that time, where I'm like, this is happening and this is real, and not on just like little insignificant scale. Like, this is happening on a massive, large scale. And so from that point, I was like, yeah, I have to do something about this. And so I came home. I was like, all right, God, what does that mean? What does that look like? I went to Hillsong Conference in Sydney that year. We had always planned to go there. And there's 10,000 people in the room, and I'm sitting there listening to Christine Kane speak about A21, which is an anti-trafficking organisation. And as I was leaving, this girl kind of just stopped me and she's like, oh, excuse me, but when I saw you before, I felt like God say that he has a plan and a purpose for your life. And I don't know what that means. I just really felt like I had to tell you. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool. Like, I don't know if I would be brave enough. Like,
It's pretty forward, isn't it?
it is. Like, if God told me this right now about one of you, I'd be like, no, I'm just going to walk out the back and leave. Like, to just say, I mean, it wasn't specific. It wasn't like, I want you, God told me you're going to India. But brave on her. And I was like, cool, thanks so much for sharing. And I walked away and I was a little bit cheeky with God. I was like, well, it doesn't really mean anything. Like, it's pretty vague, God. So you're going to have to give me more, confirm something. Anyway, next day, I was listening to a guy from India speak about the work that he does, and I was leading a team the following year, so I was like, maybe we could meet up with that organisation. So I went to go see him, and he just got mobbed with people. I'm like, I'll email. And so I was walking out the doors, and this lady stopped me, came over, she's like, oh, excuse me, sorry, but when I saw you before, and I was like, oh, don't talk to me. And she's like, I saw you in this big white relief tent. You were overseas. You were helping out. And I don't know what that means, but I just really felt like I had to tell you. I was like, thanks. That one was a bit more, And so I remember walking out those doors being, all right, God, I'm listening. Like, what does that mean? What does that look like? And there were quite a number of things that happened for me where watching The Whistleblower, which is a movie, and just being angry with humanity, angry with God as well. Like, God, how can you let this happen to your children? And having one of those moments where I just like fully sobbed. Like, I'm not a big crier, but I was fully like just crying because I'm like, this can't be happening.
What did you do with that?
Yeah, what did I do with that? I went to school, I went to my boss and I said, I'm sorry, but I don't think I'll be here for much longer. And he prayed that the doors would open or close, which I kind of felt a little bit Christian cliche, like, oh yeah, that's classic prayer. But now I'm like, God, open or close the door, like slam them in my face or just open them, because it's the best thing when you know you're just walking in what God's doing for you. And so I resigned from my job as a PE teacher at a Christian school, and I bought a one-way ticket to India, despite my parents probably concerned a little bit at that time. I was 29.
I'm sure they were concerned.
Yeah.
So you've given up this life that's going well in Geelong, and your career's going well.
Great. I was surfing 3 days a week, getting paid to surf.
And you've decided that you're going to head off to India.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where to go with that. Yeah, I did. But I think, I just felt like I knew that's what God was doing. I remember being on the plane and being like, what are you doing, Christy? This is crazy. Like, I need to get the air hostess to turn this plane around, like, because I can't do this. I had a contact in India. I didn't know her. She was picking me up, and I stayed with her, slept on the floor for a couple of months. And I spent a year doing research. I really wanted to know what the need was. I didn't necessarily want to set up an organisation at that stage. It wasn't like, I just wanted to work. I just wanted to do something. And so I was talking to a lot of different organisations within India. I did an internship with A21 in Greece. And that was kind of probably the real pivotal moment for me, where there was a girl who was trafficked from China into Greece. So it was a one-child policy. The family had her, then they had a son. She went to live with her grandparents, and then for whatever reason, her grandparents, I don't know the exact story of how she was trafficked or why, but she was trafficked into Greece. And at that point, they said, okay, now you're free. Like, she'd been in the home for a while, and now A21 is saying, okay, now you're free to go. And I had a conversation with her in the afternoon. She said, but I'm still like a baby. Like, I don't know the language. I've got no skills. Like, what does that mean, like, freedom? And so for me, that was that, like, all right, if we set something up in India, if we do something, I want it to be where we're actually training, equipping the girls. It's not just a safe space, but it's more than that.
So that interaction with the 21-year-old, that was a pivotal moment in this story.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and so from there I went back into India, and I was like, all right, let's do this. Let's start Offspring.
And how does one just walk into a foreign country and start Offspring?
I don't know. Another story, you may not have heard this one, Matt, but before I was leaving, so I'd done the year of research, I'd gone back to home, and I was like, all right, I didn't even know at that point that it was Kolkata. I just knew that I was going back to India to start Offspring. We'd set up like a board here, And then I said to someone, like, I'm so nervous, I don't know. And he said, you know, like if you've got a floodlight, you're in a dark area paddock and you've got a floodlight on something, you can see that. That's like the vision. You know that's where you want to go, but everywhere in between you is dark. And he said, but in Psalm 119, I think it is, you know, is your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. And if we literally put a lamp on our feet, like it gives us just one step. And when we take that one step, we can see the next step. And it was honestly one little step at a time.
So you're in Kolkata, your board is back in Geelong, Victoria. Some brave board members, I've got to say. People who put their trust in you. Yeah. So that must have been greatly encouraging. A lot of people in India.
Yep.
How did you start connecting with the right people that then started to push your vision into reality?
Yeah, I think like anything, it was building relationships with other organisations in the area. And yeah, there's 1.4 billion people. So you think it would be easy to find some staff members. But it wasn't. Like, it was really challenging. Like, I need to find someone who's going to capture this vision, who I can trust. You know, there's a very different cultural boundary here between us. And so it took 2 years for us to set up Offspring in India. Before we had our first survivor of sex trafficking. And that for me was a long time. Like, I just wanted to get it done, you know, but it was so foundational. Like, I look back now, hindsight's an amazing thing where you look back and you're like, oh, that's why. Because we built the foundations of who Offspring was so strong and so deep that for me, when we had our first girl, I didn't want her to feel like she was the first girl. I wanted her to feel like we'd been operating for a long time.
Christy, can you tell us some stories about the first girl?
Yeah, we had initially 3 girls join us, but one in particular was trafficked from Bangladesh into...
And sorry, at this point, just for those who might not know their Indian geography really well, can you explain where Kolkata is?
So Kolkata's in West Bengal, and West Bengal's on the northeast side, so it does border Bangladesh and Nepal. And so kind of strategic in some ways where we set up so that we can work with girls who may have been trafficked internationally. And also, again, as I said, it has the largest red light area in India. And so this girl had been working in a garment factory in Bangladesh, and someone came to her and offered her a job in India as a housemaid. So just working in someone's house, cleaning, cooking dinner. And the offer of the price point was really great, like more than what she was getting in the factory. And it was kind of too good of an opportunity not to be able to send money back to her family and support her family that way. And so she crossed the border illegally and then came into India and was sold into a brothel. And from that point, really, you know, once they're in slavery, hard to get out. She was rescued by an organisation. Actually, she wasn't rescued by an organisation. She had to go to the doctor for some reason. And when she went to the doctor, she just made a run for it. She ran, which is really brave, really risky, because a lot of the traffickers have a lot of holds over these girls of, you know, saying, we know where your family lives, we know if we find you, we'll kill you, all those things. And so she ran for it. She found an organisation and then they forwarded her to us and we worked with her.
So, Christy, let's now take a bit of a jump from the first girl to where you are today with the Prevention Centre and the Aftercare Centre, and tell us what happens in these places.
Yeah, so the 2 models are the same. The centres, we do the same thing in each, but basically the girls come, they're referred to us by rescue organisations. So don't imagine me in like a black hoodie going in and rescuing girls out of brothels. We let the professionals do that, and that takes a lot of time and effort. And so we have the girls come to us. They come and they have an interview straight up. So we want them to be coming into a workplace. They get paid to work with us, to train with us. And so they have an interview, and so they're really nervous at the interview, and they're like, oh, am I going to get the job? Am I not? We know we're going to give it to them. But we want to just set up for them that this is a professional, safe environment. And so they come every morning, they have education, and so they do English, maths, life skills, where we talk about communication, decision-making, sex education. We talk about human trafficking, and they also do Bangla, which is their local language. And then we have social workers who work with the girls one-on-one. As you can imagine, they've experienced extreme trauma. So working with them it's not like, hey, tell me your story, we need to know all about it. As you can, tell your story, because that's part of the healing process, but can we work with you through that, give you strategies on how you can deal with the trauma that you've faced and that you're still continuing to face.
And several of your girls have come to faith in Christ, yes?
Yeah, we've had, and one particular one got baptised, which was really cool. But yeah, we have devotions every morning. And we say when they come, you don't have to participate in devotions, but we do it. We've never had anyone say they don't want to. But, because a lot of them are Hindus, and so there's 30 million gods. So what's another one, hey? But we really talk about when we pray for them, when they're going to court and they're testifying in court, we say, we're praying to Jesus. And they're like, yeah, can you please pray to Jesus? And so that's a really special part of our model.
Yeah. Can you please tell us about the industry, the garments, what you're making?
What we're making? Yeah, so at the training centre, we make product that we then sell here in Australia. And so I think, again, part of that shift for me was not just setting up a home or a safe space, but actually almost in some ways a social enterprise where the girls can come and they can learn a skill. So we use treadle machines, which is a lot of women in India use, so there's no power. And we teach them how to make things. We use recycled saris, and basically it's a skill that they can then transfer to other jobs, or they could get a treadle machine and work from home and kind of create an income for themselves that way. And so for me, I'm a PE teacher, and all of a sudden I'm making product. This doesn't look like it's going to go well. But I did have some help, and we've established, I suppose, and continue to establish a product line that we sell in Australia that is part of our fundraising model.
And you have some product here with you this
morning? We will, yeah. It's not set up yet, but it will. I'll set it up. And we have some product that you can purchase or you can just have a look at. But yeah, all the product is made by the girls. And we've had one girl that had never held a pair of scissors before. So can you imagine when she's looking at some of the stuff we make and it's like, how am I going to do that? And then some, like I said, the girl who came from the garment factory was just like, woot, woot, woot. Like, wow, this is good. But yeah, it's just a way of them being able to learn.
So let's talk about product a bit more.
Yeah.
Because I have my product
you do.
that I made. So earlier this year, I had the absolute privilege to spend a few days with Christy and her team and the girls at Offspring in Kolkata. And on my first morning there, one thing that they insisted, I had no choice, insisted that I do was do some needlecraft, is that what we'll call it? Sewing, stitching?
Yep.
I don't know.
That's okay.
And it was very intimidating. It was very challenging. It was very difficult. So I was given a girl to work with, and she helped me. And if you care afterwards to come and look at the quality of this wonderful little bag, you will see that some of the stitching is absolutely 100% perfect, and some of it has been done by me. Tell me, but this bag now goes where I go. I use it to keep my travel adapters with me as I'm travelling around the place. It's become very significant to me. And, there were moments where I did a particularly bad job and the girl told me and she ripped the stitches out and we started again. So I had just a brief understanding of what it is to come into an environment that is totally foreign to you and told, get on with it. Not that you say that.
Not that we do that, I know. They're a bit harsher to you guys than we are to them. But it's cool. One of our values is quality, is excellence. And so the girls know everything that we do, whether it's mopping the floor or it's making product, there's excellence. And so it's funny. I love seeing that. And we do it because we want to empower the girls, our trainees, to actually teach a foreigner a skill they don't know. Rather than the foreigner coming in and sort of going, let's do some things and teach you. They're actually being empowered to teach. And so when they see a stitch that's not long, that's not straight, they're like, that won't get through quality control, and they rip it out. But a really important piece, this bag, because they make this Kolkata kitties their first one. And when they finish it, they get to keep it. And so they bring it in and they show me, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I'm like, so great. And then later I tell Priya, manager, the logo was upside down. But they get to keep it. They get to take this one home. And as a way of remembering that sometimes when things are really challenging, with a bit of hard work and with some, a guide beside you, it can be done. Yeah.
Thank you. So Christy, I want to tell you a little story about my time with you earlier in the year. We'll call the young lady Pooja for the sake of the story. I believe she's in your prevention centre.
Yes, correct.
And on my last afternoon in Kolkata, she showed my colleague David and I around her neighbourhood. And she was very proud to show us around. It was a hard neighbourhood. And it's one of the few places that I've been to in the world where I've actually felt quite intimidated. And I'm not intimidated easily. But there was something about this young lady as she showed us around her neighbourhood. It was a red light district, but not your typical red light district of bars and flashing neon lights and scantily clad young women and men. This was a red light neighbourhood where older women were sitting on stools outside their front door of their own residence, waiting for work. It was quite challenging, but there was something about this girl, Pooja, who had clearly been educated by you guys, and she shone like a beacon, and people in the neighbourhood were drawn to her.
Sorry.
Like your kids are drawn to you,
They
Christy.
are really drawn. Hey girls, do you want to go on the playground outside?
And in
Sorry. I knew it was going to happen at some stage. They've done really well.
I was so close to the end.
Oh,
That's
and
all
your
right.
story was building, and there was like, okay, Kaya. Yeah, just ring. Come here, darling. Come here, girl. Come here. All right. Shh. You're okay, darling. Kick.
But there was something so special about this young lady and this radiance that came out of her that drew other young people in her neighbourhood to her. And I thought, yeah, isn't that what it's all about? When we change one life, we never change one life, because there's that person's family and networks and spheres of influence that we're also impacting. So at that moment, Christy, as Pooja took us around her home area, I realised that, yeah, numerically it might be 20 to 30 girls that are in your care at this time.
16 at the
16,
moment. Yeah.
But the influence of
Yeah.
those 16 is much broader.
Yeah, and I think with that, in terms of Pooja and her story, like she's living in the red light area. Like mum works in the trade, grandma works in the trade, from home. And so for her growing up, what she's seen and been involved in, like at one point, family needs more money. We need to provide more. So what's she going to do? You know, the likelihood is that she's going to be brought into that. And so that's where we're able to provide her with a job where we pay her and she gets to send money home, bring money home to the family. But I think outside of that, like for her, when she made her first product, she took it home. She took that Kolkata kitty home, and her grandma went around the community being just saying, look what my granddaughter has made. Look what she's made. Look how amazing this is. And, you know, that just like made my heart swell, because I was like, they're so proud. It's not just her that's proud of what she's accomplished, but her family is, and they're shouting it, you know, around the community. It's
As they
pretty cool.
should be.
Yeah.
As they should be. So this, as we move very much towards our last 2 minutes here, I think. Christy, a quick question. Future of Offspring. If I was to be interviewing you here or in the new building in 5 years' time, what do you think you'd be telling me about Offspring and how it's grown, developed?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, like, again, another value we have is quality over quantity. And so I never wanted to start an organisation where, like, oh, we've got another 15 and another 20 and another 100. Like, in terms of numbers, for me, numbers, you know, because we work with the one, we work with the individuals, and we want them to be known. We want them to know value. We want them to understand self-worth again. And I think if we had a home or a training centre with, you know, 40 girls in it, it's like, how do you, like, work with each individual in that sense? And so... but the one of the hardest part of our models has been the transition. So they're with us as a trainee, and then what next? Like, how do they get a good job after that? And so wanting to start a production centre where the girls come and they do their traineeship with us, but we're actually then able to provide them with a job after that they can continue on. And not all want to go in that field. Like, some will get married, some go back home because home is safe. They were trafficked in a different way, and But yeah, and I think too, like wanting to not just grow in India, but grow in Australia in a sense of awareness and education. That's what we're so passionate about, because if we don't change on this end, it doesn't change over there. And that's what I love so much about the Pong, is that, you know, it's not just about the fundraising money and being able to support us. It's such a beautiful way to be able to educate people about modern slavery in a fun, like you said, quirky way. People don't know about it, but we need to know about it, because, again, if we don't change what we do here, it's not going to change over there.
There's nothing else to add to that, Christy. That's a perfect way to end. Ladies and gentlemen, Christy Davidson.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Matt and Christy, and they'll be around for a bit after the service if you want to hear more about what they're up to and what's going on. And obviously, we'll be, you know, moving towards talking more about the Pong in the upcoming time. But there's a lot in that, and a lot to think about and to reflect on, and some really sad moments and some wonderful moments. And I'm brought back to what Marg said at the start of the service about, in the face of all this stuff, we find ourselves in need of prayer, and we find ourselves in need of handing it over to God. And so we're going to take a moment now just to worship and to praise God, and to hand over some of this stuff to Him, and recognise that ultimately it's all in His hands as well. And so I invite the worship team up now.